Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel Net Military. Please subscribe my channel and click on the bell icon. Thank you very much.
A mystifying moment for Manila to renew Sabah claim. Malaysia-Philippine diplomatic relations seem to be hitting one of those periodic rough patches, but unlike previous occasions when anyone or anything can and usually was culpable for roiling such ties, and it usually has something to do with the long simmering and unresolved Philippine claim to Sabah. Both countries' diplomats would then go into damage control mode, but this time around, it seems the diplomatic rupture, if it can even be called that, has been instigated by none other than the current Philippine chief diplomat. Philippine Foreign Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr., a former journalist, is a man of words, but his words in his current position are anything but soothing diplomaties. In fact, he seems to have developed a reputation for quite the opposite. To what useful purpose and actual furtherance of Philippine diplomatic and political interests are his various discordant messages is not quite clear. Locsin, after predictably riling his Malaysian counterpart with the latest reiteration about Sabah belonging to the Philippines, when clearly that is de facto not the case, now mulls the revival of a Sabah desk in his department. Before Malaysia officially reacts to Locsin's latest provocative pronouncement, it may be worthwhile to ascertain if he is indeed setting official policy, or if there is even anything new he is adding to already known policy as far as the Sabah claim is concerned, something that actually moves the needle in buttressing the long-dormant claim. My suspicion is that, as usual, this is all thunder and lightning signaling little of real substance. That it is a country's chief diplomat himself seemingly causing a diplomatic storm is mystifying indeed, but perhaps in this case, it can be partially discounted as the reflection of the personal peculiarities of this particular diplomat. The current state of Philippine national politics is another discounting factor. Rodrigo Duterte is now into the last 2 years of his 6-year term and, under current constitutional limits, is prevented from seeking re-election. As Duterte confronts looming lame duck status, he is obviously struggling personally with persistent rumors of serious ill health and politically, with the unprecedented demands that the raging COVID-19 pandemic places on his leadership mettle, atop the typically onerous challenges any Philippine president faces in bringing a sense of order and semblance of governability to this rambunctious democracy. But if Duterte had been rather controversially hands-on on matters of peace and order, his saving grace thus far has been to let his economic team unleash a somewhat unlikely economic boom, now threatened by the ravages of the pandemic. A president distracted by the pandemic, as well as other pressing threats to general peace, may have enabled the general policy drift which strong-willed or mercurial individual members of his cabinet consciously or otherwise have exploited. This is hardly the time for the Philippines to be creating another front for its energy to be dissipated, especially when the country's 10 million-strong cadre of foreign workers faces uncommon threats to both their health and jobs, in view of the pandemic, requiring Philippine diplomats to attend to their needs as never before. Strengthening the cohesion of ASEAN, not undermining it as the revival of the Sabah controversy at this particular moment surely does, is also such a policy no-brainer at a time of grave geopolitical threats to the region, given the intense rivalry the United States and China are currently locking themselves into in the South China Sea. The Philippines often gives foreigners the distinct impression it is its own worst enemy. The Sabah claim has been around since even before Malaysia's birth in 1963. It has not moved even one iota to being resolved anywhere near the satisfaction the Philippines has craved, and this may become increasingly so as time passes. Meanwhile, the tens and hundreds of thousands of both legal and undocumented Filipinos in Sabah are left largely to their own devices as Manila chases a nearly impossible green menu.